What are your hopes for the Champions Ballad? Since we don't know for sure if a third DLC pack or a fourth DLC pack is coming for the Champions Ballad, we know it's going to be a dungeon and more story, but do you want it to be like a fire temple, a shadow temple, an end game type of dungeon to where it's like Stone Tower Temple or Ganon's Castle, to where it adds in all of the different elements into the one dungeon? Or do you want it to be something akin to the Beasts or Ganon's Castle from Breath of the Wild, to where it is like the entire thing's basically just a huge labyrinth dungeon?
One of my biggest critiques for Breath of the Wild was that its story was relatively simple compared to other titles within the series. What I'm kind of hopeful for the Champions Ballad is that it expands on some lore topics already talked about within Breath of the Wild, whether it be more about Zelda, Hyrule as a whole within Breath of the Wild. And I know a lot of people are begging Nintendo that the Champions Ballad somehow confirms the timeline placement for Breath of the Wild.
I think like, you would have to hold down, like you would have to personally go to Miyamoto or Aonuma's door and just like hold them down and force them to tell you.
I think before they confirm what the timeline placement is, they have to like make a firm decision internally about what that actually is. Because I don't think they even have like fully decided it when they release the game.
Yeah, but finish what you were saying. Sorry for the interruption, Macintyre.
Oh, no worries. Essentially, that's what I'm kind of hopeful for. It seems to me in the small piece of footage that we kind of saw with the Champions Ballad, it's going to take place right after the event of Breath of the Wild, which is really interesting. Since basically, I'm not sure if we're going to see a Hyrule that's trying to rebuild or something like that. Maybe, maybe not. But what's interesting above all that is I'm really wondering how Hyrule will look like if it's not affected by Ganon. Like, what's going to be the main issue here? Is it just going to be trying to rebuild Hyrule to establish a new government or something along those lines? I'm not sure. It sounds interesting. It sounds more narrative focused than anything else. And I suppose that's probably my biggest hope for it.
Yeah, for me, you mentioned like what's next for Hyrule or whatever without Ganon. For me, the easiest and most obvious answer, again, this is just my thoughts, is with Ganon out of the way, the Yiga clan basically have nothing holding them back from trying to take over, because now Hyrule's trying to rebuild, so the Yiga clan, if that was their real leader or not, or maybe it was a thing to where, like, you went all of Twilight Princess thinking Zant was the main bad guy, and then plot twist, he got his power from Ganondorf. Maybe it's something similar to where they're led to believe that in the same way that the Twilight Beasts followed Zant and not necessarily Ganondorf, maybe the Yiga are following this guy and not necessarily following the real person in charge. So I'm hoping it's a situation like that, to where it's not some comedic battle that kind of anticlimactic, that there is a real big bad Yiga leader to fight. So I hope it's something like that, and then the story goes even more in depth on maybe the Sheikah or the Yiga clan. So that's my hopes. But moving on to you, Andy, what are your hopes?
As Macintyre kind of mentioned, there's some...
Andy.
Wait, which Andy? Like Macintyre Andy or the other Andy?
Yeah.
Other Andy. Well, other Andy.
Yeah.
Where'd he go? Uh-oh.
Way to confuse everyone.
Uh-oh.
Did he drop out?
It still says he's on the call.
Yeah.
Can you guys
Alright, well, Daniel, since he is having issues, would you like to go ahead?
Sure. I guess what I'd like to see is, I've talked a bit about, I think on our last episode I mentioned how there was a rumor, which was only a rumor, that it was a prequel. And I was thinking about that, like, it would be cool simply because, like, I'd love to see Hyrule before the whole Great Calamity happened and before everything's in ruins. I'd like to see that version of Hyrule in which, you know, you've got, like, we saw glimpses of it in the memories and stuff, but I'd love to see more of Hyrule in that state, where it's really prosperous, and then sort of have this this sort of like a champion assembly sort of mission where you're recruiting people. I don't think that's what it's going to be, but I think that would be really cool if you have this sort of bringing the champions together sort of quest that ends up having this really great traditional style dungeon that's like a very long form dungeon. That's not a divine beast, that's not Sheikah themed, you know. That would be really cool. Yeah, that's the gist of what I got.
All right, and Andy, cool. What are your hopes?
So I think if I had to say,
to kind of like fill in the void here. I suppose one of my biggest kind of pet peeves about Breath of the Wild was how they handled the Sheikah story within Breath of the Wild. For example, you only learned why the Yiga clan even formed in the first place was because they were mistreated by the Hylians, and that was the whole reason why the Yiga clan formed in the first place. But they handled it so cartoonishly with Master Koga, and I really felt as though they really could have explored more on the whole Sheikah division thing. And I remember before Breath of the Wild came out, there were so many theories about what the story was going to be like. Like, is Zelda pregnant? Is the Sheikah going to do this?
Yeah.
Like,
no.
It was so I remember there was one theory that the old man was actually Link's son sent from the past or something like that, and they were actually the son and daughter of both Link and Zelda, and then because Link had to die or go in the resurrection chamber, he was still alive or something like that.
I had a similar theory to where I thought maybe it was Link from the future. Like, after he learned how to battle and kill Ganon, he had to like go back in time to slowly teach him, his old self, how to do it, and that's what the old man was doing. But yeah, I just gotta say I had it pegged from the beginning that it was King of Hyrule. Yeah,
so I'm the winner. But I have to agree with you, Macintyre, about the Yiga clan. Like, it was very anticlimactic. The whole, like, I really wish that Master Koga had been like actually a badass. You know, like, I wanted him to be like a really big threat, because this Yiga clan, like, they're all really cool assassins, and then like this guy that's supposed to be the leader of them is this giant joke that ends up doing himself in, right?
Yeah.
And I would have loved to see like this clan of enemies be presented in a way that makes them feel actually threatening.
I hear Andy clicking.
Oh.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, you're back.
Hey.
Okay.
Hey, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, but right up until you meet with Master Koga, they are like really threatening. And if when you're doing the quest where you're sneaking through the Yiga clan hideout, like, if they find you, they will kill you. Like, you can't. I remember doing that quest the first time and actually trying to fight them when I got caught, and you can't win. Like, I managed to kill a couple of them, but then they just keep coming, and then you die. I don't think you can win that. So it's like right up until then that they're actually this big threatening group, and then suddenly they become this big joke. I don't know.
Well, that's why
it was very
I think,
disappointing.
Like, I'm hoping that it does turn out that Koga's just the pawn, and then there's like a higher evil behind him, like Zant and Ganon, and then I think it really would give the Yiga clan a bit of redemption.
I think so.
Took the words out of my mouth.
Yes.
Sorry, so I wasted a bunch of your guys' time, so I'll try and be quick here.
No worries.
Like Macintyre was saying, I agree in the sense of, like, I want more backstory, and specifically I want the plot holes filled, such as, like, how was Ganon able to take over all of the Guardians? It never really says why. I'd like to see flashbacks, I think, of the champion's final moments. I guess ideally I would like it to kind of be a bridge from, like, what happened 100 years ago to what happened in the future, present day rather, not the future. So just to kind of fill that in, and then maybe more of just like an excellent traditional dungeon. I think that the dungeons of Breath of the Wild were okay, but I don't think that they are going to be the ones that you're going to be talking about in the next 10 years as some of the best in the series. So Champion's Ballad has a chance to like give this super awesome dungeon that can put its stamp on what Breath of the Wild is all about. So that would be my hope.
Yeah, I feel that the divine beasts are clever, but they're short. Compared especially to Twilight Princess dungeons, or even Ocarina of Time, Skyward Sword dungeons, the dungeons, I put that in air quotes, in Breath of the Wild, feel like Nintendo knew most people on the Switch would be playing Breath of the Wild on the go. So just like how the shrines are quick, some of them are just one room, you go in, open the chest, leave. They're basically made for you to, if you have 10 minutes free, if you have 20 minutes free while you're on break at work, or maybe you're in a doctor's office waiting, or whatever the situation is, you're on a train to get to work or a bus or whatever, they're made for those quick 10, 15, 20 minute experiences. And they designed not just the shrines, but the divine beasts around that as well. So they are very clever in how there are multiple ways of solving them, but they feel almost the same as the shrines, to where it is you just go in, 15 minutes later you're at the boss, and there's not much to separate them from the shrines.
I don't know if I don't think that they were designed with that sort of theory in mind, that people would be playing it on the Switch and being to go, though, because Breath of the Wild was in development for Wii U for so long, and if that were the case, that would mean that they slashed out a ton of content from the game before, like because it was before, like, basically moving the project over to be a double Switch and Wii U game, like a double release.
Yeah, well, there was the interview with Gnomo where he said that after they showed off the first trailer to where it was him in front of the green screen of Hyrule, and then the Guardian chases Link through the little forest area, and he goes on the bridge. He said that the positive reaction to that trailer made them change the direction of Zelda Wii U at the time. So it could have been to where they were going to have more traditional dungeons. And he said, like, the Guardians at first, they weren't, like, the game wasn't as involved or based around them at the beginning as they are now, which is also why I think in the next big trailer after that is the first one that we see Link with the actual Sheikah Slate.
Yeah.
So who knows what it like could have been, but it's just my thoughts. But yeah, does anyone have any final thoughts? What does everybody think on the release date for the DLC? Is it going to be December? Are they going to hold it over until 2018? The videos on this channel are funded by supporters on Patreon like you. If you're a fan of this channel and would like to join on videos, receive shoutouts, watch videos early, have your questions answered, or have your topic discussed on our podcast, please consider supporting on Patreon for these and many other rewards for just $1. Shoutouts for this video includes Link Use the Triforce, Rusty Caulfield, Lovable Christy, Give Time 15, Shadow to Us, Robbie Morgan, and Lunarium. I want to thank all of you for everything you have done to help support this channel.